Hello everybody. I hope you all are doing well. Today we will get into SharePoint 2016. We will look into the following objectives. We will start our SharePoint and I will go through a few slides before we actually get into the SharePoint site that I had created. We'll talk a little bit about the comparison of the products and the versions that we have. So there are basically two different ways that you can see the implementation of SharePoint. We'll talk about what the SharePoint would achieve from the point of collaboration and sharing, because it is really a platform which allows you to collaborate and share and be kept in touch with your groups or your team members while you work on your projects. We'll also look into some of the access control to the SharePoint sites. So these are basically the rights that you would assign as an administrator, and we will talk a little bit about what you can and cannot do depending upon the type of implementation of SharePoint that you have at your workplace. And then we'll also look into the integration with Office and the different kinds of apps that you can use in this platform. So let us go ahead and get started. Let's look into the SharePoint as a technology. SharePoint is a technology that allows organization and business units of various sizes to improve team collaboration and productivity. So it is designed to increase the efficiency of the business process in your organization. Generally, we have SharePoint installed in an organization in, I would say, two main ways, but then you actually have a hybrid way as well. And a lot of times you actually see the hybrid mode being implemented in organization. So we have the SharePoint Server 2016, and that would be the one that would reside on one or more servers within your organization, and that is why I say these are on-premises installation. However, SharePoint capabilities are also available as a web-based service, which we refer to as the SharePoint Online, that is hosted outside your organization or in the cloud. So this is what we mean by off-premises. Now remember that in this cloud infrastructure, the SharePoint is maintained by a third party. So the SharePoint Online would then be a cloud service that you can use to access information and interact with your team members who are within your organization from nearly anywhere with any types of devices. So it is going to be device agnostic. You can use it through your phone, your tablet, your computer, your laptops, any devices as such. Now remember that SharePoint Online is a subscription-based service. So you can have an installation where instead of having a SharePoint 2016 software in your organization, you can buy a subscription, and you can have different plans, and you can have a subscription plan to use this software as a service. Now, this is something that we had talked about in our prior discussion, which is one of the cloud services, SaaS, which is SaaS. Now, remember, SharePoint Online is also a part of Office 365, which also includes the Microsoft Exchange subscription plan to use the software as a service. So these are all examples of software as a service. And of course, depending upon the organization size, there are different kinds of subscription plans that are available, and you would pretty much be choosing the kind of subscription plan that would fit your needs. And we will look into the roadmap, and I'll give you a link where you can actually go and study a little more on the different types of offerings that you can have. Now, the third way of implementing this SharePoint is through what we call the hybrid environment. So you can actually integrate the productivity services of SharePoint Online with an on-premise SharePoint Server 2016 by using the Server 2016 in a hybrid environment. So in that kind of a situation, it is based on a trusted communication between the SharePoint Online and the SharePoint Server 2016. Okay, and in most likely case, our SharePoint is hosted that way. Now, I'm not sure if our IT is hosting it that way, but this is a very, very high chance or high probability that we probably do it this way, and I'll tell you why. So when you combine this kind of a trust framework, you can actually combine this online services with a SharePoint Online Cloud solution, and deploy the SharePoint online to deliver this consistent user experience across a combined environment. And generally, the reason you would use a hybrid environment is because these kind of environments are very helpful if it is not possible for an organization to fully migrate its SharePoint deployment to the cloud due to some of the business regulations. It could be for technical reasons, or it could be for other reasons. And it's very important that you understand the kind of institution and the kind of policy that your institution has or organization has. For example, there could be a policy which would, and if you want to be compliant with that policy, you might need to have a data sovereignty policy in which your organization would require the data to be hosted in a particular location. Okay, so in those cases, by using a hybrid model, your business or your organization can actually start to achieve the benefits associated with the use of this cloud solution, while at the same time continuing to be an on-premises deployment that provides the data governance and customization flexibility that you would require, that would satisfy your policy, that would also allow you to integrate your products within this platform. So here is the hybrid configuration roadmap that I have listed. At the top, you would actually see a link, and this goes directly to the Microsoft document, and it allows you to kind of understand if or what kind of implementation you would need according to this chart. So as you can see over here, configuring your hybrid OneDrive for business, configuring your cloud hybrid search. Okay, it could be a hybrid federated search from SharePoint Online to a SharePoint server. So these are the different kinds of roadmaps. And if you are at any point required to make the decision of implementation, you can pretty much come in here and follow this roadmap. However, keep in mind that as we develop this platform, we are talking about 2016, 2019 is already available. However, we did not go into 2019 because our institution has not quite adopted that one yet. So you, as the manager, would be the one making the decision, keeping in mind some of the other business processes that would need to be integrated into this platform, and when and why and how it would be feasible for you to make that implementation. So when you begin your SharePoint, this is what you would see. However, depending upon the implementation that is already there, I do not really see this. You could also be in the same boat. For example, if you are the SharePoint user, not quite the SharePoint manager, then you might never see something like this. You would probably see your interface to be a little different. So generally, when you open your SharePoint site as an administrator, this is the kind of a home page that you can see. However, as I said earlier, the appearance may vary, and any team site home page is likely to include the customization that is already made for you if you are one of the users. But there are some common elements that you would find. Onto the left, or onto the left side of your page, you would probably see the following items called the home, documents, site contents, recycle bin. This is the collection of links to frequently used site resources. There is also a list of quick launch that you might see, and when I go through the site that I had created for you all, I would point some of these things out as I go along. But on your left, you would probably see the collection of the left navigation area onto the left, and then on the top you would also find the top navigation area. You know, this area might contain a top link bar that would appear at the top of each page, and I will get into a little more details when we go through our site that we had created. So this is actually the site that I had created for you all, and before we get into the physical site, let's look into this document just a little bit. As you can see here, so when I first created my team site, I had given you some of the screenshot earlier in my previous discussion as to when you first start, you actually have two options: creating a team site and creating a communication site, and I had chosen as the team site, and this is the first page that I have. So on your left, this is what we were talking about, your left navigation area, where you have this home, notebook, document, pages, site contents. Okay. On the top, you would also have some of the top navigation area. At the very top right hand side, you see a picture of me. I'm pointing my mouse or pointer to this. You'd also see this question mark, and this is basically your help site. So if you click on it, it basically allows you to search for any kind of help. You would also see a settings over here, and then you have a little bell icon which basically updates you of any of the messages. And then you can also see some of the other things like, sharing the document, the next steps. And then over here on the main page or main site, you actually see that you can actually add new documents. You can find out about the page details. You can add your news. You can add your activity. I can add my news. It's a pretty simple and intuitive workspace that you can create. And we will look into more of this by actually going into the site that I have created. So let's take a look at that. Before I go to the site that I have created, I also would like to point out that you should have received an invitation from me. So when I created this team site with the SharePoint, I had included all of you guys, and it was really simple to include you guys because, again, remember, this is a platform where everything is included. So since we use Microsoft Outlook, my data that is populated from my Exchange server would come in, and if I would just type in your name, your information should come up. Okay, but you should have received something like this, and if you click on the CTS2361 SharePoint user, you should be taken to that particular site. Now behind this is actually a web address that you are not seeing, but basically there is a web address behind this. So now on your screen what you see is the actual site. So remember where I was pointing out earlier, on your left you actually have a left navigation where you have some of these links, and then onto the middle of the page you actually have a news section, you have your activity, and then you can upload your document, you can add a list, you can add a news, so you can click and play with this. And the reason I take you through all this is because with that link that I had initially submitted, or that invitation that you have submitted, I want you to go into the site and see what you can and cannot do. Okay, so as I was mentioning earlier, here is my help site, here is my settings, and look how integrated this is. I'm actually getting some notifications, and this is actually my mails populating into my notifications so that I can see the whole communication, or I can have my whole communication from this one platform. All right, now before we get into a little more details, let me also share something with you which I have also talked about in this SharePoint. If I click on this tab, this is my page, and this is where I'm actually using it as a user. So some of the other sites that you see are actually communications that are going on. So these are existing projects that are going on. So every single project has been created by an administrator or a user, however they have created that site. So there's a project manager. So there's a start. This is my CEN2002 team site. This is actually one of the sites that was created by a group of my students who had access to SharePoint and Office 365, and they created this to communicate between their group members. Okay, see how they have used the SharePoint. And then I have a committee, I have a document repository, again another committee over here. So these are different kinds of sites that we have. Right now I am the creator of this SharePoint users. Okay, now before I do this, if I click on this set of ellipses over here, this is my app launcher, and you can actually see the kind of apps that I can integrate within my SharePoint environment. Okay, so as you can see over here, I already have my Outlook, my OneDrive I can include in there. So every time I want to save something, I can upload my documents to OneDrive. I can bring in a productivity suite over here like Excel, and I can use some of the business intelligence from this. I can definitely go into my SharePoint, my class notebook, and this is a Teams. Now this is not to be considered between, sometimes when I say I created a site for all my teams, this is a specific feature by itself, and this is the one that I probably do not have access to because I am not the administrator. But this is something that if you are the administrator and if you are installing it, you might be able to open the access for your organization members or your team members to be able to utilize this feature. Okay, so at this point, if I click on SharePoint, this is where it takes me, and here is my sites. These are my different sites that I have. Now, when I am trying to create my site, I'm just going to go ahead and click on the plus sign, and this is pretty intuitive. And once I click over here, I actually see there's a create a site. This is my team site and my communication site. Now, this is the team site I was explaining earlier, not to be confused with that other platform, the team platform that you have on Microsoft 2016, or I'm sorry, SharePoint 2016. So this is the site that I chose to create my SharePoint site over here. So I'm going to say no to this, and now I'm going to come back over here and go to this, and this is basically in my tab right here. Okay, so as you can see over here, if I click on notebook, So it will take me to a different environment. Basically, it tells you that, okay, now I have opened up my notebook and I can store things in my OneNote over here. So this is my team site notebook, and this should be available to everybody that I have included in my team. So if I come back over here, if I click on the share option right here, this is where I can invite my people. So as I was telling you earlier, since this is coming or accessing the information from a database or my Exchange servers, if I type in a name of a person, let's say Amanda, and if this is a person that is included within my organization, it automatically starts populating my list from my organization. All right. So I don't need to do this, but then I can also see this particular one if I had actually shared it with some people. So if I click on my shared with, here are my class members. So now I have shared it with myself along with everybody else in the class. Now, this is why I said that when I click on email everyone, which I had already done, you should have gotten that link there. And if you click on this link, it might ask you to input your input your user ID and your password, and that would allow you to open that platform at any place. It could be a workplace, it could be in your phone, it could be on your tablet, it could be on a laptop, and it could be at any place that you are at. Okay, so if I want to add a news, I can just click over here and I can just go ahead and add some important news from here. So hopefully this kind of gives you some idea about how I can keep my entire team members posted or updated on anything that is happening regarding this project. Okay, so once I create a site, I can bring 10 people in that particular group and keep everybody updated with it. So let me come back over here, and this is what I want you to do. I have not added any document in here. I have not, and as you can see, I can create a new document. I can click on these quick links. Okay, so learn about my team site, learn how to add a page. So this is where I can generally add my quick links over here. I can add my news over here. I can add different kinds of Office application in here. Remember, we talked about the Excel. I can bring in OneNote. I can bring in any kind of apps that would be needed to keep this collaboration going. Another thing that I wanted to show you is if you click on this next steps over here, it will now allow you to give you some more, or it could allow you to get some information about how to use it. So there are some sites, and also you see these are the little apps that you can include in here. So it says get more with Office 365. There's an integration with Office 365 that you would find in this. Last but not the least is your settings. And again, this is one way of going to it. You can even go through a different way where I would go to my account over here, and I can go through my account profile, or I can come in over here and go through my settings from here, and depending upon what I want to do, if I go to share, I can go to share and look into the advanced option. Basically where I was trying to take you is this site, which is giving you the access levels. So you as a creator of that site would have certain permission that you can assign. Okay, so over here you see only three things. We have the edit, the full control, and the read, but there are actually a couple more features that you can add. But again, remember, I am just a SharePoint user, so I have been given certain rights by the administrator. So that is why I may only be seeing these three things. So when I am creating a site, I can assign my SharePoint members only edit rights, or I can give you full control, or I can only give you some read where you can only read something. And as you can see over here, I can create my group, I can grant my permission, I can have different kinds of permission levels. Here are my access request settings. So you can click on these things to make changes to an access request settings. You can go to the site collection administrator, and a lot of times you may not always have access to all this. But every single feature that you see over here would come with some instructions in here. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this, and of course you can share it. Okay, again, invite some people, and you can follow it. That is why initially when I showed you this SharePoint, because I'm following the development of all these sites. So if I'm definitely a member of all of these, so I can actually tell what is happening in that site. So if I have to go and if I incorporate my mail with this, every time there would be an activity in this particular site within this group, I would probably get a notification. As you can see over here, since my mail is included in here, every time there's an email that is hitting my server, Exchange server, I'm getting a notification. So this is generally my one platform which allows you to keep track of all the different projects that I am involved with. So here's my cancel. So this is pretty much your site. Now what I would also want you to do, and this is going to be one of your exercises, is I want you to go in and navigate within your page and see what is it that you can do. And I want you to either write a little document, maybe upload something, so that just to see how people can see this and how people can use it. And we will get into more specifics as we move along with our class. Remember when we were talking about the control access, and I showed you that you could only see from my access that was given to me, I could only see 3 types of control access. I could only see the read, the edit, and the full control. However, as I was mentioning earlier, you could also have a contribute option, you could have a limited option, or you could also have a design option. If we want to get into a little more details about what each of these permission would allow you to do, if we start from the very top and if you go with the read permission, this is a level that gives you a read-only access to the website. However, the next one, which is the contribute, is going to give you everything in addition to the read. So it will give you the read-only access, but then it would also allow you to create, edit, and delete items in the existing list and library. So whatever is included in that site, in that existing list and library, you can do a contribution, which is basically a little more than the read. So in addition to all the permission in the reads, the contribute permission levels allows you to create, edit, and delete items in the existing list. If you're given the edit permission, then you have everything about the read and contribute, but now it allows you to create, manage, and delete the lists and libraries. Remember, with the previous one, the contribute, you can only do things within it, but now with the edit option, you can actually delete and edit the list and libraries. If you have the design, then you have everything up to edit, and then it allows you to edit the pages in the website. This is in your design. Of course, the full permission is going to give you everything. So that particular level of permission gives you full control. And then you also have another one, which is the limited, which allows you to access shared resources within a site, such as a specific list or a specific document library or a specific folder or a specific item. So this is how this control access would allow you to contribute within that platform. Last but not the least, the SharePoint is integrated with Office, because you have to remember that Office 2016 and SharePoint 2016 are really designed to create this integrated productivity environment for all the users and the teams across the server and the client programs on multiple devices. These are device agnostic. This is working off the cloud. So they work together to provide you with a set of seamlessly integrated tools. So your Word, your Excel, your access to OneNote, your access to Notebook, your access to Skype. So the more apps that you can bring in, that kind of gives you an integrated approach to everything. So all of these are included within your SharePoint 2016 capabilities. So you can actually access in the context of the Office suite programs that you have, including your document libraries. You can even bring in social platforms into this, social capabilities. However, when we get into more of the social site, you will see that just like your Facebook and Twitter, you can now have a limitation. So you would include them in your social capabilities, but that would only be limited to the people that you want to bring in within your organization. And we will talk more about that. So a SharePoint site is more of a collaborative content, including documents, your lists and events. You can bring in your calendars, you can bring in your task assignments, you can add blogs, you can do a lot of things with SharePoint permissions without having to leave the Office 2016 program. And as I mentioned earlier, in addition, with the BI, the business intelligence capabilities that are provided in the SharePoint 2016, the Office online server integration with Microsoft Excel can allow you to explore and visualize a lot of data. You actually saw a little bit of a little snapshot when I was trying to add some of the users. As soon as I type a name, if they're included in the Exchange server, they're automatically pop up. So you don't always have to remember their email addresses. And I think the interface is intuitive enough to allow you to create a new Word document and drop it in the documents library. It would allow you to upload your files and add your blogs and everything that you would need to do. I hope with that you have a good understanding of the SharePoint 2016 site, and we would have some activity where I would want you to explore the site that I have created just to see what kind of permission and access that you can have in working within the platform. Later on, I will have you all create a site with a team. I know we only have a few people in the class. We probably have about 6 or 8 people, but we can probably form 2 or 3 teams to see how they can create and manage a team by using this platform. Thank you.